Good morning, Stephen. How are you? Stephen, can you hear me? I have no
Here we
volume
go.
on. There you are.
Yeah, I just was getting everything tested here, making sure everything's good.
Nice. Look at you looking all legit with your.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I listened to Marty's and I was like, well, I don't think it's video, but hey, why not get dressed up for the occasion?
Exactly.
Let's
Fantastic.
see. There we go. That's okay. I don't need this thing staring in my eyes if this is not for recording. So this is just an audio recording, right?
Yeah, it's audio, and I record the video as well. We haven't used the content yet, but we'll probably repurpose it down the road. Maybe put up a YouTube channel or something like that. So might as
Okay.
well do both.
All right.
Now you got a very official mic there. Are you a podcaster?
No, I just do a lot of recording, whether it's videos or things like that, and I do a lot of Zoom calls, and so
Yeah.
I figured it's good to have a good microphone.
It's interesting because I'm here in the studio and I got like all this
Oh,
stuff, right?
geez. Yeah,
But I don't even use it anymore because like Zoom just does it.
yeah.
It's very interesting. If only I had known. Well, listen, welcome. And, Marty speaks very highly of you and obviously thinks you're a great fit for this show. So I am going to leverage his trust and let's put on a great show.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, is there anything specifically that you would like to promote or get out there to my audience?
No, I don't think. I mean, for your audience, I think I don't think there's anything I have specific to promote. So no, I mean, I think the only thing of relevance is maybe my personality poker. So if that comes,
Personality poker. Okay.
yeah, so if that comes up in conversation, fine. But I'm not a big promoter on these. I'm more like, let's just have a good conversation and let the content speak for itself.
Yeah, I like that. So, just to refresh your memory, my audience is entrepreneurs that are struggling to make that first 100K. And I believe 90% of them are in that place and they refuse to admit it. They're acting like they're doing better than they are, right? So they put
Yeah.
the highlights of their life on their social media and then go home broke and lonely, right? So that's what we talk about.
I know quite a few of them. So and look, we've all been one. So
Yes,
I don't
that's
think
exactly it.
that you have to start somewhere. So I can certainly empathize.
Yeah, perfect. So the way to add the most value to my audience is for you to be real and authentic and just kind of like show your own brokenness, right? Because we all
Yeah.
have it. And the struggles that you're currently going through, the struggles that you used to go through. And it's really powerful when you share some of those voices in your head that we all have, like, I'm not good enough or I'm a fraud. That one comes up a
Oh boy,
lot.
that I said that's my good one. I like that one. That's
Okay,
that imposter syndrome thing is one of
yeah.
my biggies.
Got it. Okay. And it seems to be a big one for all these speakers I'm interviewing, which is very interesting to me. Um, but yeah, sharing that voice of doubt and everything that we all struggle with is very helpful for the audience because one of my listeners out there is going to say, wow, this guy Steven is super successful. However, he struggles with the same thing as me. Well, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And that's what we're standing for. We're going to transform the life of one of our amazing listeners today through our conversation. If we do that, we made the world a better place.
Sweet.
So you in on that with me?
I am totally in on that.
All right, my friend. Here we go. I like your personality already. I could just tell it's going to be a good conversation.
Oh, and as a quick aside,
Sure.
the reason why Marty and I have a good friendship amongst the fact that we respect the heck out of each other is we were born on the same day. Not the same year. He's a little younger than I am, but we're both born on the same day.
What's the date?
April 25th.
Oh, you're coming up.
Yeah, a couple months, about 2 months from today.
There you go. That's awesome. Cool. All right. So let's just get through quick housekeeping here. First thing. All right, Stephen, to clarify, you grant me, Joseph Warren, unlimited worldwide distribution rights to this recording, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. And we're just going to have it like a quick fire, like conversation. I have a few good questions here, but mostly it's just conversational, right? So
Good.
I'm just going to listen to what you're saying and kind of build off of that. And it just works. It just works every time.
Sweet.
Okay? Awesome. All right, brother. I'm ready if you are. Any other questions or comments you have for me before we go?
No, I'm all set.
All right, cool. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to First 100K, the show where I interview successful entrepreneurs about how they made their first $100,000, digging deep to find the tools, tactics, and superpowers that you can use to go from A to 100K. I'm your host, your coach, your friend, Joseph Warren. I'm also the owner of 2 co-working spaces here in Tampa, Florida, where I have the privilege of helping hundreds of entrepreneurs to start, launch, and grow their businesses and make their first $100,000, because that's where 90% of you are struggling right now. We need to push you through that. Today, our featured guest is courageous entrepreneur Stephen Shapiro. Now, Stephen is an innovation instigator. I love that term, and we're going to find out a little more what he means by that. He's a keynote speaker. He's a business advisor. He's written 5 books already. What do we got? We got 24/7 Innovation. We got Goal-Free Living, The Little Book of Innovation, Personality Poker, and Best Practices Are Stupid. What a great name. Stephen, welcome to the show. Go ahead and fill in some of the gaps in that intro, would you?
That's awesome. Well, first of all, great to be here. I think you covered a lot quite well. I will say that I did start my life off as a consultant. First 15 years was with a company called Accenture, which is a big management consulting firm. And the reason why I got into innovation is because I was actually leading one of our practices on optimization, which resulted in people losing jobs. And I didn't like that. I couldn't sleep at night. So I decided I wanted to create a group that was about creating jobs. And I love doing that.
So just to clarify, you were working on a project where to optimize jobs and everything like that, you literally need to fire people or clean them out. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was one project where the work that we were doing, the CEO publicly announced that 10,000 people would lose their job. I'm like, holy moly, that's it just at some point in doing this over and over and over and promoting it, because I was actually a speaker in the company promoting this work, it just weighed heavily on my mind.
Now, listen, I know you're hitting a nerve right now with a few of my listeners, right, that came out of corporate America, are building their businesses now, but they remember what it was like not to have any security, where your fate, your future is in the hands of others, or an innovation project or of sorts like this, an optimization project where you're one of 10,000 people that are about to lose their job tomorrow, and you don't even know about it yet. And that's painful. And that's why we go out and we start businesses. And I think we're in this generation of entrepreneurship. It's thriving. It's fantastic. Before we get into this, Stephen, take a minute and share something personal with us that very few people in your business life know about you.
A number of people know that one of my big passions is magic. So I love to do that. I torture people with my magic. I'm not a great magician, but I love watching magic as much as I possibly can. And the main reason is because I think that magic is a great way to view the world. First of all, I think we're all magicians in our own way. We all create magic. But I love the fact that magicians make the impossible possible. And in the business world, we can't even make the possible possible. So for me, that's one of my really great passions, traveling. I'm married. And just, I have to admit, since I've gotten married, the travel is not quite as exciting as it used to be, but still enjoy it.
Yeah, I get that. So just to clarify, you're like a magician for like corporate America. You come in and you like do magic as far as in innovation, right?
Well, I don't actually perform magic on the stage.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, well, actually, I do a couple of tricks occasionally, but
I mean, the work that you do is
the work
magical.
that I do. Well, what's interesting, I love that you say that, because one of the things that I always close my speech with is, since I talk about magic throughout the presentation, I do end up saying, look, at the end of the day, let's not talk about innovation, let's talk about magic. and you're all magicians. And I try to find some very
Mm.
personal stories about something they've done that has touched me. So I just did an event for a group of like 100 plus people who are in the fire apparatus industry, where they make fire engines and pumpers and all these other equipment. The work that they are doing are saving lives. So you talk about the real magicians. Those are the people who are the real magicians. And that's what I like to do, is make sure that everybody gets clear on how they are a magician in their own life and the lives of others.
I love it. I think you're starting out right there, dropping some value, right? It's a Startup Nation. Like, what is the magic that you bring to the world right now with your business, with your products, with your service, with your personality, right? Like, what is that magic? And start looking at it that way, rather than, oh, I just do this product or I do this service, which could be dry or boring or whatever. It's like, how am I changing lives? How am I transforming the world? Right? What is the magic behind that? Because really, at the end of the day, it's all about the why, isn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So let's get down to business. My audience loves context. How much revenue, gross revenue, did your company do in the past 12 months approximately?
I mean, it varies from year to year, but usually about the 500,000 mark is not too far from the number.
Got it. And what are you on track to do in the next 12? What's the goal?
I'm always happy, actually, if I stay about the same. I mean, I'd like to get to seven figures at some point, but it is wherever it is. And I think that the thing that's important for everybody to recognize is that it's not always about the money. You can grow and scale. I know you've had other people on the business who have multi-million on the show that have multi-million dollar businesses. And I don't aspire to that. If it means giving up the life that I have, if it means having a big company with employees that I have to worry about, I want to be a solopreneur with surrounding myself with a bunch of smart freelancers and people of that nature, and basically have the best life I can and having a good living in the process.
I like that, right? So Startup Nation, like, that's a good question Steven's raising right here is, what do you want that end goal to look like? Do you want to be in charge of a mega successful company and take on all that responsibility and lose a lot of your quality of life in doing it? Or is your focus more, I want to make a good living, but I want to have quality of life. I want to spend time with my family. I want to go on vacations. I want to have that freedom and that flexibility and that lifestyle. So that's a great question just to sit with, don't you think?
I think it's an important question, because you can't, my book is called Best Practices Are Stupid, the last one. And the reason is you can't just take what somebody else does and slam it into your way of operating, because we all have, you said context is important. Well, context is incredibly important. I need to understand me, my business, my industry, my specific audience. If I were to try to apply what has worked for other people that you've had on this podcast to my business, it may fail miserably, not because it's bad content, but the context is different enough that it doesn't fit.
I like that. You just distinguish content from context. Very powerful. Why do you think, Stephen, let's get right to it. Why do you think 90% of entrepreneurs are struggling to make their first 100K? Why do you think they're stopped?
I think there's a couple reasons. One is that, and I saw this a lot when I was at Accenture and I left, a lot of people who got downsized or whatever it might be, they realized they were an expert in something. So what they valued was their expertise, their knowledge in the topic, but they didn't realize that almost every single entrepreneur's primary goal and function is sales and marketing. And I've got to say, I don't always love that. I'd love to just get up on stage and do my thing. I love that. But the reality of the business world is it's a marketing business first. You could have the best product that nobody's heard of and you'll have a crappy business. So it's really about how do you have the best product with the best marketing and sales. And I think that's where a lot of people just struggle.
So Stephen, speak directly to my listener right now that is saying, I came from corporate America. I'm more of a processes and systems type of person. I literally hate selling. I hate marketing. I suck at both. Even when I try, I have no performance there. Like, speak to them. What advice would you give to them? They're starting a business and obviously they need sales and marketing.
Well, I think, either you can find a way of acquiring those skills, either you personally get trained and get excited about it, or you can find somebody who can do it for you. If you can't do either of those, then you need to start questioning Are you ready to be an entrepreneur? It is 90% of my day is spent marketing and selling. And I think that's the case with most entrepreneurs. Now, look, I've got people who help me sell and help me market and help me with all those things. But at the end of the day, I know my content. I know my message. I have to be the one crafting everything. And when it comes to sales calls, I have to be the one closing the deal because it's about me. It's about my content. And so you just got to get used to it one way or another. And it's hard to get somebody else to do it for you.
Yeah. So Startup Nation, what Steven is telling you right now is you got one of three choices. Choice one, learn sales and marketing and get good at it and stop making excuses. Choice two, find someone else who is naturally good at it and partner with them somehow and bring them in. Choice three, quit. Because literally, you need sales and marketing to be successful in business. So if you're not willing to do choice one or choice two, you have no business being in business, and just end it now and go work for somebody else. Steven, did I paraphrase that well?
I think that was perfect in the way you described it.
It was right to it, right? Steven, at the end of the day, right, I talk about this a lot. We all have this superpower, the one thing that we're just amazing at, that we're known for, and it just comes natural to us. We make it look easy, and everything else we should be outsourcing. What is your superpower?
I would say in my world, there are a couple of things. I will say when it comes to the speech is one of my superpowers is the ability to create full body experiences. So unlike a lot of speakers who get up and talk, I actually create an experience for thousands of people. Doesn't matter the number of people. And I've done this for 20 years now. So I'm really good at that. The other thing which I think I'm good at is coming up with, yeah.
Before you go there, give me an example of like an experience you created. Like tell us a quick story.
Well, so one of my products is called Personality Poker. It's also a book that you mentioned. It is a deck of cards. It is 52 cards that have words on them that describe particular behavioral attributes. And what we'll do is, let's say we've got 1,000 people in the room. Every person before they show up will get 5 cards, random cards, and they go through a process of trading. So I say, okay, time to get 5 cards that best describe how you see yourself. Everybody stands up, they trade with other people. Then what we do is we take decks of cards, literally 100 decks of cards, throw them on the floor of a ballroom. People are on their hands and knees fighting each other to get the best cards. And then we do so much in terms of, okay, all the people with mainly black cards stand on one side of the room, people with mainly red cards stand on the other side of the room. So we reconfigure the room. People are physically moving in a 45 to 60-minute keynote. They're moving a good portion of that time. People love that because it's, first of all, about themselves, but it's also this full body experience that people just never forget.
Yeah, I think that's great because it's kinesthetic learning, right? Which I'm very partial to, right? Just that movement, that motion, everything like that. I suspect that most of the guys in that room, they identify themselves with the king card. and the women are like, I'm the queen. But I could be totally wrong there. So, Steve, describe to us your biggest fail, mistake, or setback your first year in business.
I think the first year in business, wow, which one? I'll tell you, I'll be honest, it was not easy in the beginning. I left Accenture with a book from a major publisher. I'd been speaking for a long time, and I thought, okay, hello world, you're ready for me. And for the first several years, I confused the fact that being a great speaker would lead to a great speaking business. And we sort of talked about that. Being a great speaker does not give you a great speaking business. Being a great anything does not give you a great business. It's your ability to, let the world know that you are great at that. So I think that was probably my biggest single fail. But I also think that not recognizing the value of partnerships, entrepreneurs, sometimes we're like, okay, I'm going to tough it out. We're going to do it alone. But at the end of the day, sometimes the best thing to do, I got this advice not too long ago, which I wish I had a long time ago, which was before you can multiply, you must first learn to divide. Before you can multiply, you must first learn to divide. Basically, what that means is before you can grow your business, you need to learn to divide your business. Find people who are vested in the success of your business and create partnership deals with them in a way that will be of mutually beneficial value to them. So I think that's one of the big things which I've learned over time is it's not about me, it's about my network of people, and not just my network of clients, but it's a network of people who become my ambassadors.
That is powerful. So before you can learn to multiply and grow your business, you must learn to divide your business and parse it out, right? Parcel it out. That's powerful. I like it. So, like so many of my listeners, they came from corporate America, right? And they're going out on their own and they're in their first year of business, the same way you were, Stephen, a few years back. And they're thinking, man, I was good at X or Y. But starting a business is totally different because it's building a business is completely different than the skill set that maybe you're already good at. How did you transition? How you speak about innovation all the time. How did you innovate yourself when that big mistake happened where you went in with eyes wide open, like everybody's going to love what I do and what I'm great at. And then you went, oh snap, I actually have to build a business around this and it's work. Like, how did you innovate yourself in that and turn it around and now build the successful company that's doing $500,000 a year?
I would say the first thing was to not so much innovate the business, but to innovate myself. I think that I needed to get over my own limiting beliefs and my own expectations of how it should have worked. I mean, there was a period of time after I left Accenture where I could not even get off the sofa. I was so like confused because I don't work well in a situation without clarity. I don't mind ambiguity, like when there's at least some wiggle room. I don't want to have like everything dictated to me. On the other hand, when you have absolutely no clue what you're doing, when you have no clue how to position yourself, when you have no clue how to market yourself, for me, I found that overwhelming. So in the beginning, I really just, I almost felt incapacitated. And so a lot of it was, how do I get past that? And sometimes the best thing for me to do is to just start doing things, to get out there, meet people, talk to people, people who are in a similar situation, and recognizing that I'm not alone in this, and that there's a lot of other people who have the same struggles I do. And that to me was, that emotional support was more important than the technical support of how to actually make the money.
I think that's powerful. At Startup Nation, listen to what Steven's saying here. When you feel incapacitated, which I know you do right now, in your home office, you're working out of your house, you don't have the clarity, you're just confused, like, what do I do next? Listen to Steven's advice there. Movement, right? Take action. Just get out. Go outside, go to a networking event, go to a conference, go to something, change your stimuli. When you change your stimuli in your environment, it changes your brain, your mindset, everything. It opens up new opportunities, new possibilities. Stephen, I think that's spot on. Fantastic.
And let me just add one
Yeah.
other quick thing to that is the other thing which happens, especially as you get out there and start networking with people. And I don't like the networking part because to me that's about getting something, but getting out and meeting people, going to events, talking to people purely to connect with people. You're going to be hanging out with people who are more successful than you are. And you can do one of two things in that situation. One is you can compare yourself to them, and which then puts you down, or you can look at those other people and be inspired by them. And if you're inspired by them and you want to become more like them, not so much in terms of what they do, but just their aura, their success, whatever, that's awesome. But this whole comparative game, and I know you talked about this before. It's a losing game, but it's just good to remind ourselves that it is a natural human instinct to do that.
I think again, fantastic job, well articulated. Startup Nation, it's don't compare yourself to the success of others. Instead, be humble. If you're struggling, ask people. Say, listen, I really admire what you've done with your business, with your life. I really want to be, at the same place as you a year or two from now. Like, how do I do it? Like, here's where I'm stuck. And just put yourself out there, even if you just met the person for the first time. I've done it so many times where I just share, Stephen, and I just say, hey, this is where I'm struggling. This is where I'm stopped. Can you help? And it's amazing how many people will just go, wow, thanks for being real about that. Here's what I would do next. And they would give me this advice that it was like free consulting, right? I didn't have to pay $500 an hour for that advice, yet that's what they charge. And they did it because I was just real and I was vulnerable. What do you want to add to that?
Well, I think the other thing is you don't have to reach out to people in order to get advice or in order to get anything. I mean, I will, for example, if I read a book I like, I write the author. no expectations that they'll even write me back.
Mm.
But I just write them and say, hey, by the way, I just loved your book, and here's a particular passage that really resonated with me and had an impact. Only because as an author, I don't know what impact my work has. And when somebody writes me and tells me, it just makes me feel great. So I like to do that for other people, but there have been situations where I've written people and say, oh, that's great. Hey, by the way, I happen to, I know your work. I mean, somebody who I just got connected with, we're in a similar space. Our paths have never crossed, and we just got connected and no expectations. But now all of a sudden, like, well, how do we partner? How do we work together? Instead of being competitors, how do we become collaborators? And you just don't know where any of these things go, and never assume that it's the person who makes the most money that's going to be the most helpful. It could be the person sitting next to you who's, eating lunch out of a paper bag because they can't afford their meal, but they happen to know someone that's going to change your life.
Love it. I love the way you said that. Stephen, what was your number one fear that really messed with your head your first year in business?
It is a fear that I had before I started my business, and it's something I still have, which many people know as the imposter syndrome. Basically, I remember when I was at Accenture, as a consultant, you're being thrown into the deep end. Excuse me. And I remember this one time I was being brought into a company to talk about something which I didn't even really know. I'd never done it. I'd done it a little bit. And so I didn't even research it because this was before the internet. So I'm just sort of pulling together, what do I think is the right answer? And I get up there in a group of I think it was presenting to 50 people who've been working on a project for a couple of years. They've been struggling with something. And I presented to them my thoughts on ways to address those problems. Again, making them up. Everybody loved it. People implemented it. It changed the course of the business. But in my head, I was thinking, well, I'm just making this stuff up. I mean, it's not real. Now, over time, I can rationalize it, saying, look, I've had a lot of different experiences, and I'm able to pull those experiences together in unique ways. So I don't have to be an expert in a particular topic, but I've got a lot of expertise, broad range, and I pull them together. But still, it haunts me that somebody's going to figure out I don't know what I'm talking about.
Startup Nation, Stephen just got so real with us, and I really appreciate that. Now, I know you're listening right now and you have that imposter syndrome, and you think, man, someday people are going to find out I'm a fraud. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm talking about, like Stephen said. Here's the thing, though. It's like, you probably do. You probably know more than you think, just from your life and your experiences. Like what Stephen just shared, he pulled stuff out of his whatever, and implemented it, and people implemented it, and it worked. It got them results. So it's because we have this creative genius, but we're stopped so many times by our own limiting belief about ourselves, about what we think about ourselves. And the world sometimes sees us different. The world sometimes sees the genius within us. So shouldn't we? Stephen, what would you say is the best advice you've ever received in business?
Ignore all advice.
Hey, you just threw out my question. That was awesome.
It comes back to, this whole concept that if you're trying to replicate what somebody else is doing and you don't understand the context, you don't understand. I'm writing actually an article for Inc. It's the first article that I'm writing for them. I'll have a regular column with them.
Congratulations.
Inc.com, I should clarify.
Yeah, congratulations.
But it really is on, why following in the footsteps of others will potentially lead to your failure, because one of them is context that we talked about, but the other one is the concept of the undersampling of failure. And basically what the undersampling of failure means is when you get somebody up on the stage who is successful, they're going to talk about what they did that made them successful. And we read books about people who are successful, and we go to, watch videos about people who are successful, and we listen to podcasts about people who are successful. The problem is we don't actually ever take the time to listen to people who failed. Now, you asked a great question, which was, what are some of your biggest failures? The undersampling of failure basically means if somebody had tried something, you need to also make sure that hundreds of other people tried the same thing and were successful. Because if they weren't, then that's basically survivor bias, which is we focus on those who survived but all the failures, we never study them. And so we have to just be skeptical anytime we get advice. It doesn't mean it's bad advice. We just need to make sure it's good advice for us at this time.
I think that'd be like a cool podcast, wouldn't it? It'd be like just interview people who failed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they haven't got back up yet. Like they just failed. Like they just crashed and burned. And it's like, what are you sitting with right now?
Yeah.
Like what's going through your head? Like what are you taking away? Where do you think you should have went left, but you went right? Those types of things. I think that could be really powerful. Share with us one of your daily habits that has gotten you to where you are today.
I wish I had more habits. I'm trying to get better at that. That's actually one of the things which I started to commit to this week is I created a little sheet of all the habits I want to have in place because I'm unfortunately a naturally undisciplined person, whether it comes to getting to the gym, whether it gets to doing certain activities for work. I think the things which help me the most, though, that I do on a regular basis is I go into the hot tub and meditate. I just find that quieting of the mind is really good. And when I don't do that, I find I get a little antsy. And I go to Disney as often as I can. I live in Orlando, and I have an annual pass to Disney and Universal and SeaWorld and all those great places. And I find, but I don't go to Disney to ride the rides. I'll, of course, do that. You can't go there and not. But I bring my iPad, and I will sit somewhere outside and watch people be inspired by Disney, be inspired what they've created. And I'll use that as sort of a creative energy. Instead of going to a Starbucks, I go to Disney, and that's where I do my work.
I think that's brilliant because you're in the innovation industry, right? That's what you do for clients. And where better to go and sit than one of the greatest creative spaces in the world, right? Disney. I think that's brilliant. It's like you're going to just sit there and again, change your stimuli, your environment, and you're going to see all the innovations. It's like, interesting. Like I'm sitting and I'm watching, over by the lake. I see this little mechanism that they put in to create this experience for the kids or whatever. It's like, why did they do that? What's the benefit of doing that? And then boom, light bulb goes off. Oh my gosh, the client I'm working with right now, what if we did X? And it just sparks these ideas, right? So Startup Nation, change your environment. If you're in that lull where you're just losing your creativity, you don't know what's that next product or service or how to really put that twist on it, that spin that really makes you stand out in your marketplace, take Steven's advice. Go sit at Disney or what's your version of Disney around you in your town or your city. And, just go sit there and see what other people have done and get that spark of innovation going. Steven, what's your favorite website, app, or digital resource that you use now or even, your first year in business that's really helped you?
Wow, that's a good question. There's so many.
Sure.
Since I travel a lot, the two travel apps that I use the most are Kayak and TripIt, only because Kayak gets me the best deals, and TripIt is the best way. TripIt Pro keeps me, basically just a great way of organizing all of my travel, notifying me of flight delays. If a seat wasn't available, it will keep on monitoring. So if I wanted a window seat and it wasn't available, it will keep on monitoring and send me a ping. And I've actually saved money because it'll also monitor the airfare and say, hey, by the way, the change fee in this ticket was $250, but the price dropped $500. If you call them up, you'll save $250. So I've basically paid for TripIt many times over just through that. So that's, I would say probably from a travel perspective, the ones I use the most. From an innovation perspective, the thing which has changed my life as a presenter, and many people use Keynote. Most people don't know some ways you can use Keynote that are incredibly creative. So what I do is I have all my slides done on my MacBook Pro. And when I present, the MacBook Pro is what's connected to the projector. Mm-hmm. But then I have my iPad, which is wirelessly connected to the Mac. And the iPad, I can then use it as a remote control. So when I'm looking at the iPad, I can see the current slide. I can see the next slide. I can actually see a thumbnail of every slide in the deck and go to any slide at any point. So if the person before me is running on 15 minutes late and I need to cut slides, I don't have to click past slides like most people do. I just skip them and the audience never even sees that I skip them. And for me, I do a lot of drawing. I can draw on my iPad and it goes right in the projector. So every time I present, half the people who come up to me afterwards want to talk about my innovation content. The other half want to talk about the technology I use.
See, to me, that's magic.
It
It's like
is.
you're doing magic up there, right? People don't even see. It's the sleight of hand, right on your iPad, the sleight of hand. That's cool. What is the one thing that you want the world to know about being successful in business?
It takes work, typically, but it takes leverage more than anything else. So I did an experiment about 4 years ago to see if I could work an hour a day and still have a successful business. And interestingly, at that time, my business grew. Now I couldn't, it wasn't a scientific study, so I couldn't look at it. Was this momentum from previous years? But what happened was, and you said something earlier, which is really important, which is you need to figure out what you do best, what only you can do, and that creates the most value for your market. And then everything else, you have to get somebody else to do it or not do it at all. And for about 3 years, that's what I did, is an hour a day, the most important activity. And then once the hour was done, I'd be finished. Now, some days I work 5 hours, which meant then I couldn't work the rest of the week. So that was basically the model. And I got really great at prioritizing what does matter a lot. And I got great at finding partnerships to help me grow the business. And that's, whether you want to work an hour a day or 5 hours a day or 10 hours a day, doesn't really matter. It's not the number, it's the mindset of prioritization and leverage. So like when I think about partners, I don't just think about somebody who can develop content for me. I also want people who can, like I have a partnership with a training company. The reason why I worked with them is I could have developed my own train the trainer materials, certified my own trainer. It's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. So I found a company that has some world-class trainers already. They have access to almost every single Fortune 500 company because they've been in business a long time. And so I licensed them my content. They developed the course. They using my content, but they develop the course. They train their trainers. They sell the course. They deliver the course, and I get a slice of it. And that to me is leverage, because the other way I would have spent 100 hours a week trying to create my own training business as opposed to finding somebody who already has it. I've done the same thing with e-learning. I've done the same thing with many other areas where I don't spend a penny, but I take a smaller slice of a bigger pie.
I like that. Dr. Alex Osterwalder, he's the author of Business Model Generation, a friend of mine, and I actually helped co-author that book, which was kind of cool. And that's huge in the industry. And
it is.
Yeah, and he would talk about this formula of value times leverage equals success, right? So what is the value that you have that you've created in the world, and then how do you leverage it, right, with a partner or something? How do you leverage their value into what you're doing, and how do they leverage your value? And it's that value exchange that you both leverage is what creates success. And that's exactly what you just described with that situation with that company. So I think it's fantastic. So Startup Nation, we are listening to Steven Shapiro. You can find out more about Steven at stevenshapiro.com. That's STEPHENSHAPIRO.com. That's stevenshapiro.com. So Steven, this is my favorite part of the show. Welcome to the hustle round. This is where I'm going to ask you 12 quick fire questions. You'll have about 3 seconds to answer each one. Don't overthink it. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Steven, what's your favorite sound?
Cash register.
Cha-ching. Steven, what's your least favorite sound?
Babies crying.
Got it. When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a mystery book author.
Got it. What are you most afraid of?
The world figuring out the way I see myself is reality.
There you go. What did you spend way too much time doing your first year in business?
On the couch, debilitated.
Got it. Frozen, paralyzed, fearful. Speaking of fear, what secret fear do you have about people?
Wow. Secret fear is that everybody knows something that I don't know, and they're not telling me.
Wow, that's powerful. What do you wish you had learned sooner in your business?
Business can be fun. It doesn't, I wished I'd known that being an entrepreneur was going to be as fun as it is.
Love it. Turn your business into magic, Startup Nation. What is a new habit that you want to form?
Exercise.
And what is a bad habit you want to break?
Um, Not exercising.
Got it. Take 3 words to describe who you are now.
Happy, um, happy, and happy. I guess those are.
I got that. Okay.
I just, I find that if I love life, everything comes to me.
Yeah, I get it. Again, magical. It's the theme of this episode. Pick 3 words to describe who you were your first year in business.
Confused, debilitated, and hopeful at the same time.
I got it. And imagine sometime in the distant future, and there you are standing in front of your tombstone. Read to us what it says on it, Stephen.
I would hope that it says, made a lasting impact in the world. Uh, I think that's really all we can hope for.
Yeah, got it. And last question, if you could come back to life and share with your family and friends only one piece of advice, what would you say to them?
Your attitude is the most important thing to shift because tactics and strategies and techniques don't matter.
Got it. Stephen, what's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you, sir?
If you go to my website, steveshapiro.com, you can find me there. If you want to learn about personality poker, personalitypoker.com is the best place to go. And you'll find a whole bunch of innovative things that I've created. More is like just thought starters for people out there. So if you're stuck a little bit with what you're trying to do, you might find something interesting there to help kickstart your business.
Got it. So personalitypoker.com and stevenshapiro.com. Stephen, thanks for joining us today, and I wish you peace, love, and superpowers.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Cheers. Startup Nation, head over to First 100K for even more tools, tactics, and tricks that you can use to go from A to 100K. I'm Joseph Warren, and you were made for greatness. So stop being a wuss and start being a winner. Have a blessed day, and I'll catch you on the next show. Peace.
And I like that.
I'm glad. Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all human. So let's have actual human conversations, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not like projects and products and 5 strategies and all that, right? So cool. I think you did a great job. Anything I can help you with, sir?
Good for the moment, but if you're in Tampa, is that where you actually live?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Orlando. Let's find a time to get together and meet up and have a coffee and talk about life.
I'd be totally about that. Are you a wine guy?
I love wine.
Have you been to Burns Steakhouse here in Tampa?
I have not.
Well, then I have to question if you're a wine guy, sir, because it's only world famous. And yeah, it's the largest private wine collection in the world.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and my friends own it, and they're a fantastic family, and it's an amazing experience. So if you ever want to grab dinner when you're in Tampa, we could go over to Burns Steakhouse, and it will be a memory for sure.
That's
If
fantastic.
your wife is in town, bring her along, right? And if she's a wine girl,
Oh, she is.
she would. Awesome. Yeah, I think she would love it. I have 3 bold requests for you, sir.
Of course. Fire
Awesome.
away.
First one, would you be willing to write a quick review on iTunes
Of course.
about your experience on First 100K with Joseph Warren? And always be real and raw and be like, this guy's an a-hole. I don't like him. Whatever you need to say.
Okay.
Yeah. And then second bold request is right after we end our conversation here today, can you just record a quick video testimonial, same exact thing, your experience on First 100K with Joseph Warren, and just be real and straight from the heart.
Okay.
It's always the most impactful. And then the third request, who in your circle of influencers, either at your level or a level like just right above you're reaching at, that you know personally, who do you think would be a good guest on the show? The same way that Marty introduced us.
There's so many people.
Mm-hmm.
let me get back to you on that because
Perfect.
first of all, Marty and I are all these speaker people are in the same circle. So I'd probably want to think about maybe somebody who's in a slightly different circle
Yes.
rather than my normal circle. But that doesn't come as easily to me because I could name off 100 speakers in 5 seconds.
Hmm.
So let me give that some thought.
Yeah, perfect. And the best way to do that, just like Marty did, a quick email introduction to like 5 different people simultaneously. Takes
Okay.
you like 2 minutes flat, and I take it from there, and I do the rest of the work there. So,
Cool. Cool.
anything else I can do for you, or
Yeah, just I want to make sure I have your email address. I'm sure it's somewhere, but just
sure, it's Joseph Joseph at cocreative.com. Leave the e off on the end, so it's tiv.com.
yep. Excellent.
Excellent, my friend.
Sweet. So I will take care of those and we will be in touch.
Cool. And as soon as I get the show up and running, I have a few in the pipeline, but I'll shoot you an email, and then I would say share it with your audience because
Of
I
course.
think you added a ton of value for our entrepreneurs out there. And this will only build up your audience, your credibility, your raving fans. So I just
Awesome.
recommend you share that. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, brother. God bless you. Peace.
I'll see you in Tampa sometime.
Yeah, seriously, reach out to me.
All right. Cool.
Do you want my cell phone? Best way
Sure.
to best way
Yeah.
to reach me is via text.
Okay.
727-277-9522. And just shoot me a text when you're headed to Tampa. And
Sure. So
yeah,
727-277-9522.
correct.
Awesome.
All right, brother.
All
See
right.
ya.
Take care. Bye now.
Take care. Bye.